How you doing? If we have not met yet, my name is Lauren, and I am one of the new pastors on staff. I'm the new pastor of ministry here at The Journey. Hi. And if I can be a little bit honest and a little bit vulnerable right now, I'm a little scared. It's the first time I'm talking to any of you, and also it's I didn't run through any of these slides whatsoever, and so this is sort of all new to me, but I'm really glad you guys are here, and I got a question for you. Why are you here? What is your purpose here on this earth? Right, that question, that's the question that's been running in my mind all week. That's the question that's been running through this team's mind as we're preparing for this night. And it's a question that has sparked entire religions. It's a question that's, built nations, it's erected monuments, and recently, if you're young and you have enough money, you go across random mountains with backpacks and, travel the world that way. And you try to find out this question of what is my purpose in life? What am I on this earth to do? And in this world, it's really hard to find. But for some of you, and I'm hoping for most of you in the room, that question has turned a little bit. It's changed a little bit. It's changed from what's my purpose in life to what has God called me to do? And so it's a changed question from what's my purpose to what is your calling? And it's the thing that David talked about just a little bit earlier about what is your calling, what am I supposed to figure out what to do once I start following God? And I'm sitting here and I'm saying, okay, God, you've changed me from this to that. You've brought me from death to life. What do I do now? And that's the question. And I really, as a pastor, that's kind of my heart, right? I want to help you figure out the answer to that question. I want you to figure out your life's mission, but I only have 8 minutes. And so for the next 8 minutes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on one thing. And this one thing, I believe, is foundational to that calling. I believe this one thing actually takes you through every step of the way. I think it takes you through all the days of your life, as we were just singing. And one thing I think is not just foundational, it's maybe the most important thing about learning how to live out your calling. And I really want to focus on it. And you might look at me and say, okay, this guy's a pastor, and he's young, and he probably has this all figured out. I do not. I do not have this figured out whatsoever. I have learned this through trial and error, and I've not a ton of trial and error because I'm kind of young, but I've learned this through time. But mostly, I learned this through a guy named John Henry Newman. And in seminary, I stumbled on this prayer from John Henry Newman. And if you don't know John Henry Newman, he's a Catholic saint, and he wrote a lot of things. He started a lot of different movements, one from called the Oxford Movement, which means he's really smart. And he wrote this one poem and this one prayer that I'm going to read to you guys. And he did it at a time when he just started to join the church. And so he just joined the church, and he's at a point in his life when everything is falling apart, where he decides, okay, I'm going to follow God's will for my life. I'm going to join the church. I'm going to do this. This is what's going to change. And everything else starts crumbling. And nothing makes sense. And he's sitting there, and he's wondering what he's supposed to do. And so I want to read this for you. It's called, there's called a lot of different things, but I like calling it, He Knows What He Is About. If you want to Google it, if you want to search it up, that's the prayer, that's the poem. And I'm going to read it to you, and what it does is it focuses on that one thing that I was talking about earlier. It focuses on the one thing that I believe is so foundational to living out your calling, the one thing that will actually carry you through every single moment. It'll carry you through every fear, every insecurity, and every single stumbling block along the way. And the poem starts like this. It says, God knows me and calls me by name. God has created me to do to him some definite service. He has committed some work to me which he has not committed to another. I have my mission. I never may know it in this life, but I shall be told it in the next. I am a link in the chain, a bond of connection between persons. and somehow I am necessary for his purposes. I have a part in this great work, and I shall do good. I shall do his work. Therefore, I will trust him. Wherever I am, I can never be thrown away. If I am in sickness, my sickness may serve him. If I am in sorrow, my sorrow may serve him. My sickness, or perplexity or sorrow may be necessary causes of some great end, which is quite beyond us. He does nothing in vain. He knows what he is about. He may take away my friends. He may throw me among strangers. He knows what he is about. He make me feel desolate. Make my spirit sink. Hide the future from me. Still, he knows what he is about. This is the prayer. Let me be thy blind instrument. I ask not to see. I ask not to know. I ask not to see. I ask not to know. I ask simply to be used. It is what David just read over us in Corinthians. No ear has heard, no eye has seen, no mind has imagined the things that God has prepared for those who love him. And this prayer, it raises up this one thing that is ironically bringing us down. And that one thing is surrender. That's the one thing that I know will carry us through. No matter what age you are, no matter what stage of life, surrender will carry us through. And this is what John Henry Newman is praying. He says, I ask not to see, I ask not to know, I ask simply to be used. And so if you're trying to find your calling, I have a question for you. Is this your posture? Is this your posture towards God? Is this the way that you're asking God to tell you what to do? Or are you saying, hey, God, I want to do this. Is this my calling? Or is this, I ask not to see, I ask not to know, I ask simply to be used? Because I know there's one thing that's true. God's calling starts with our surrender. It starts with our surrendering. And I know it's true because I've seen it in my life. The only reason I'm here is because I just said yes to everything that God put in my way. Every door that God opened, I just said yes. I said, God, I don't know where this is going. I don't know where I'm moving. I actually have no idea. I moved here, just small to know, I moved here with 3 big prayers: to find a place to live, to find a place to work, and to find friends. And I had no idea what that was going to happen, but I knew it was supposed to be New York. Okay? And so I asked not to see, I asked not to know, but it started with surrender. And I know this is true because I've met some of you, and the way that you serve and the way that you love, surrender. The way that one of you, I don't know if Cynthia's in here, but I told you, I was like, hey, welcome to the welcome team. Would you like to be anywhere? She's like, Pastor, wherever you want. I'm surrendered. I was like, do you want to greet? Do you want to help at donuts? She's like, whatever you want, I'm surrendered. That's the posture that I've met in some of you. I know this is true. And I know it's true because our Lord Jesus lived this every day of his life. From his baptism to his desert temptation to the cross, he lived in full surrender to the Father. And so in a moment, we're actually communion. Hopefully, raise your hand if you didn't get a communion packet, but you should have received one coming in. And in a moment, we're about to do that together. And so I'll read a little bit, and we're going to do that all together, and I'll walk us through that. But I wanted to do communion tonight because it is the full example of It is moments before Jesus will pray this prayer that says, yet not as I will, but as your will be done. And so I wanted to take this moment to see, this is what surrender looks like. This is what surrender looks like for us. And so if you would go with me and take off this little top part and get the bread. And it says in 1 Corinthians that our Lord Jesus, on the night that he was betrayed, took bread and he said this is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Eat. And if you'll take the cup. In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me." And I fully believe that Jesus knew what was going on, right? Jesus knew what completely was going on, but he prayed that prayer so that we would know what type of prayer to pray. And the prayer of "not my will, but your will be done" is ultimately a prayer of trust. Surrender is ultimately about trust. And it's a question of whether or not you trust God. And so we're about to sing a song that's all about trusting God. And I really love this song, but I know a part of it. And part of it goes, "I called the Lord, and he heard, and he answered." And so I don't know where you are. I don't know what you're thinking. But if that's your prayer, yet not your will, not my will, but yours, if your posture is surrender, do whatever you need to. Take whatever time you need. But sing this along with us. Sing, "Let's Trust in God."